All right, let's talk about being in the Army Band. I was in the Army Band for 21 years, and overall, I would say that I think this was a really great career choice. And I want to talk about five great things about being an Army Bandsman. And it's very hard to narrow this down to five. There's got to be a lot more. But the five that popped into my head is what we're going to roll with. And so, one thing I loved about it was the travel. I got to go just about everywhere that you can possibly imagine while being in the Army Band. If you was in a stateside band, sometimes you would get to travel to other states to do different ceremonies that maybe there wasn't a band in that region. You got to go to high schools, and there was a lot of things that you got to do. And when you went overseas, that's where the travel really started. When I was stationed in Germany, I got to go to just about every country in Europe. Got to go to Great Britain, got to play a Twilight tattoo for the Queen, and I got to see all of the nations of the Baltics. I got to see France, Italy, you name it. And it was really a lot of fun. The travel was just great. It's opportunities to go places that I would have never gotten to go and to have experiences that I would have only dreamed of otherwise. So that was probably one of the really fun things, was just getting to go a lot of fun places. The second thing is just the music. How many people, when you start out in school band or you think about going to college, what are you really going to do with that music? You might be in a garage band. You might want to be a rock star wannabe. You might be able to play in a community band. There's some different things like that. But the music was really outstanding. We got to play any variety of music that you could imagine. If you was in the rock ensemble, you'd play rock. If you was in the country band, you could play country. You might play in the brass quintet, a woodwind quintet. You were almost likely to play in the jazz band or the concert band or the ceremonial band. And in each one of those, you played different kinds of music. Obviously, in a marching band, you're going to play marches and ceremonial type of music. So you got to do plenty of that. When you was in concert band, depending upon who was running that concert band, you would play anything from some really hardcore type of band music to just fun things like movie songs or stuff from musicals. Or you might play just about anything you would have played in high school or college band. And so you got to play a very wide variety of music, and that's something that I thought was just absolutely wonderful about being in the Army Band. You didn't get to do that just everywhere. And so that would have been another thing. And the third thing I'll talk about is just the people. When you're in the Army Band, you're going to run into every kind of people that you can possibly imagine. Why does a person get in the Army Band? Well, there was as many different reasons as there were people in the Army Band. For me, it was a way to make money while playing music and just having a good time in life. I always kind of went wherever the waves of life took me, and it took me into the Army Band, and I'm really happy that it did. And the people that I met, you met musicians of all type also. You met some people that were maybe just good high school players that managed to make it through the School of Music, and they weren't at the top of their game, but they did the best they could and they contributed. And then you would have some people that you would wonder, how in the world did this person end up in an Army Band? They're absolutely amazing. They can play anything, any style, and so half the time you was trying to figure these kind of things out. But you also run into people from every area of the states, and sometimes even from different countries. We had people, when I was in Heidelberg, we had a couple of guys from Poland that weren't even American citizens, and we had people from Latin American countries that weren't citizens, but they still somehow got in the Army Band. And I didn't dig into how exactly that happened, but it did happen. And so you met people from all walks of life, and it really adds to your depth of a character and existence, and it really does add to your life. And so that was one of the things I loved. The fourth thing that I loved was just this variety of ensembles that I kind of mentioned before. For me, playing in the Dixieland Band was the big deal. I loved playing Dixieland Jazz, and to this day I still love playing Dixieland Jazz. And so I played in that ensemble, and typically I played in a brass quintet. And that would require that you be pretty solid with your classical music, which I was. I went to college and learned a little bit about it, and so had a really good time playing in the brass quintet. And the brass quintet did have opportunities to go places, just like the Dixieland and all the ensembles. Depending on the event, you might go do different things. If the band was going to Mardi Gras, your Dixieland band was going to get to do some different things, and so forth and so on. A brass ensemble like a quintet, you might get to go to high schools and play for kids and work in the recruitment side of the Army band. And so that kind of thing was fun. So you had this variety of ensembles, but you could have even played in the jazz combo, you could have played in a rock combo, a country combo. So you had all of these different groups. So it really fit just about any kind of music that a person would want to do. And that was just really great. Another really great thing about being in the Army band was, as a musician, financial stability isn't always a guaranteed thing. If you're not in the Army band, what are you going to do? You're going to be out there beating the streets. You're going to be trying to get gigs. Maybe you'll be in the musicians union or something if you live in a city, and you'll take what gigs you get, but you don't get to play them with the same people all the time. And so the stability of being in an Army band, you get to play with a lot of the same people for a long period of time, and you get a paycheck every month no matter what happens. And so no matter how many jobs you did or didn't do, you're still getting the same amount of money. Plus, if you go somewhere, you might get extra money for TDY, and all these different things do add up. And so the stability of being in the Army band was a really wonderful thing that I enjoyed a lot. I didn't have to worry about being the musician out there on the street that had to, fight tooth and nail just to scrape by enough money to live on. And so I really enjoyed that aspect. There was a lot of things about being in the Army band that I could talk about, and probably will in other videos, but I just wanted to talk about these 5 great things. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you in a while.